In this video, you will learn how to tink, which is basically unknitting. It's what you do when you want to undo any of your stitches, like if you had made a mistake earlier in the row or on a previously worked row. It's called to tink because tink is knit spelled backwards. Tinking is safer than just ripping back because you're undoing stitch by stitch, so there's less of a chance of things unraveling. In this demo, I'm going to tink back this entire row, and I've gone ahead and I've worked a few different types of stitches in this row. So we have some knits, then some purls, and then I actually did some yarn over and knit two togethers here on this side. So let's get started. To start tinking, you want to position your work so that your stitches that you want to undo are on the right side. So I'm working on a circular, so all I have to do is to push these towards the end here, and then my free needle becomes my left needle. Okay, so we have our work on the right needle, and the yarn is coming from the right side. Then we have our empty needle in our left hand here. Because my first bunch of stitches here are regular knit stitches, I'm going to be inserting the left needle into the stitch below the next stitch on the right needle in the back of the work. So I'm going to take my left needle, and I'm going to try to move this a little so you can see better. And I'm going to insert this needle into this stitch just like that. And then I'm going to slide the stitch off the right needle. And then I'm going to take my yarn and I'm just going to give it a tug so it comes out of the stitch. So I've tinked one stitch. Let's do that again. So insert your left needle into the back of the next stitch. If you have a hard time figuring this out, look where your yarn is coming out of. So if I'm not sure, I give my yarn a little bit of a tug here, and then I can see, okay, so when I tug, this stitch kind of moves here. So that's where I want to go. So I'm going to insert my left needle into that stitch right there. Then slide the stitch off of the right needle and then pull the yarn out like that. And if it helps to move the yarn like so, like I'm doing, move it towards you so you can see into the back of the work, that can be helpful. It also is helpful if you use your left hand to kind of hold on to these stitches as you slide the stitch off of the right needle. So it looks like I have 3 more knit stitches, and then I could tell I have a purl stitch right here because I have that purl bump in the front of the stitch. So I'm just going to tink back these 3 knit stitches. Okay. So when I get to my purl stitch, I know it's a purl stitch for a couple of reasons. One, I see that purl bump in the front of the stitch, but also see how the yarn wants to move to the front. The yarn is coming from the front of the stitch. So I'm going to move the yarn to the front, just like so. So to tink a purl stitch, insert the needle into the stitch below your next stitch in the front of the work. And you're going to grab it from the right side of the stitch to the left. Put that on your left needle. Then slide the stitch off of the right needle and then give the yarn a tug. As you can see, the yarn is coming from the back of the work, so I know that the next stitch I have to tink is a knit stitch. So let's just go ahead and move the yarn to the back of the work. And let's tink this stitch. And again, because it's a knit stitch, I'm going to be into the back of the work. I'm going to go into that stitch. Slide that off, give a tug, and now the yarn is coming from the front again. So this is a purl stitch, so I'll bring the yarn to the front. Then I'm going to insert my left needle and go on the right side of that stitch. And then slide the stitch off of your right needle and then pull the yarn. Okay, then the yarn I can tell is coming from the back now, so let's pull it back to the back. Let's tink this stitch here. Okay, now this next stitch was an example of a knit two together I had done. Now, tinking and knit two together is the same as a knit stitch, except you're going to be going into both of the loops. So let's turn the work over. You can see a little bit better. So see, I'm going to give my working yarn a little bit of a tug here. And you can see that it's coming through both of these stitches. So I'm going to take my left needle and I'm going to go into both of the loops and then slide the stitch off, like so. Now I had worked a yarn over before that knit two together, so that's why my yarn is in the front of the work, but it's coming from the back of the work. So to undo a yarn over, all you have to do is bring the yarn to the back of the work again. That's it. So the next stitch is also a knit two together, so let's do that again. Insert the left needle into both of the loops, then slide it, stitch off of the right needle, and undo the yarn. And again, this was a yarn over, so to undo a yarn over, just bring the yarn to the back of the work. I have one more knit two together here. Okay, this was my last yarn over, so I just bring the yarn to the back of the work. And then the rest of these stitches are knit stitches, so we're going back to just doing a regular tink. Okay, just 3 more. And our last one. Okay, so now we've undone or tinked the entire row and you're ready to rework it. Or if, let's say, you had made the mistake a little bit further down, you would just turn the work and tink back in the exact same method as you had done. So when you're tinking, you just always have to remember that your stitches are on the right needle with your yarn on the right side. And then you would just go ahead and start tinking back that row as well. So that is how you tink your knitting.